lawyers, welcome back to the club. We're your hosts. I'm Akila Friends.
And I'm Ebony Chapman.
And today, guys, as you can see, maybe you've seen her herself or yourself on YouTube and on the internet and the like, but we are joined by recovering lawyer and YouTuber Stephanie. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hi, how are y'all? Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to have you. Honestly, I stumbled across your videos. I don't know. I get into the YouTube dark hole. You know what I'm saying? You just start clicking on things and things pop up. And I was like, oh, what is this? And I think you were talking about Jussie Smollett. And I was like, okay, what's happening?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, let me pull this up. What are they talking about? What's happening? Let me get a better understanding of the case. So yes, I'm so happy to have you joining us.
It's so great.
I'm excited to be here.
Yes, she mentioned you. And then I was like, wait, actually, I've definitely stalked your page too, because, and obviously we can talk about it too. We have a mutual friend. And then when I'm bringing up the fact that I wanted to do more things with media and business and all that, they were like, yo, I have a friend of a friend who does this within law. And then we went to your page and I was like, this is exactly it. So it's exciting to see that you're doing it and you're thriving. Okay. For the folks who may not know much about you, and obviously after all of our intros, what you do specifically, just give the folks an overview of WineNChill.
Yes. So WineNChill started as my way in 2020 to just house okay, I'm going to finally pay off Sally Mae. I'm tired of this hoe. She's bothering me. I'll document it for myself. And then I did a review of Kanye's contracts. I am a former entertainment lawyer. When he tweeted out all of his 102 pages of contracts, my friend suggested oh, why don't you do a review on your channel of it? And so when I did that, then I started a Lawyer React series. So mostly entertainment lawsuits. So to your point of Jussie Smollett, a little bit of tech. I've been working in tech now for 5-ish years, some tech lawsuits. And I would say overall, pop culture lawsuits with tie-ins to broader issues. But yes, to your point, I'm a recovering lawyer, which is what I have decided to tell people I am these days. I quit finally, so I'm still a licensed attorney. However, I don't got to negotiate contracts all day, which makes me very happy because I never really enjoyed it that much. So yeah, so that's what's a little bit on the channel.
I said it's so crazy. Sometimes a thing that you're amazing at or that folks want to gravitate towards, where you're actually, if I could back away from this, I would. Do you feel that way? Or I want to talk about the journey before we talk about entertainment law, because we're going to be talking about entertainment law today. We're going to be talking about some of the major deals and contracts that you've spoken about on your channel, and just giving folks who are interested in entertainment from one perspective or another to know about the law behind it. So that's what we're definitely going to talk about. But I want to make sure that we also highlight the other major component of your channel and what you're doing, which is one, kind of paying off debt with Sally Mae. And secondly, the fact that you're budding outside of, your career within entertainment law. So one, kind of going for the latter first, you deciding to quit your 6-figure job. Okay.
Yeah.
You decided to quit that. You have a channel or right now a video open on that, but I want you to really delve into that with us. What prompted change? What was the journey like? All the things. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, happy to talk about it. So I spoiler for at the end, I got a new job doing diversity, equity, inclusion, which I still make 6 figures, but I took a huge pay cut, which was fine with me at this point, and I'm happy to get into that. But people, I was only saying in the beginning because a lot of people were in the comments so you're not going to work? What are you doing? And I'm it's at the end of the video, but I feel I should have said it at the beginning because I think there were some concerned people so you're just going to run around and be a menace? And I'm no, I have a job, I'm doing things. So I have been in a legal program since I was 14. I went to magnet high school in Miami. Like most immigrant parents, it was doctor, lawyer, failure. So my dad picked lawyer for me, and that was that. I didn't detest it. I thought maybe it would be fun. I used to love Law and Order before I went to law school and realized a lot of it's fake. Went to law school, did okay. Interned in law school for Bad Boy, Rent the Runway. So did entertainment and tech. I didn't have any feelings about it at that point. I was okay, the things I seem to like at work don't necessarily have to do with my legal job, but that's fine. And then when I got into actual lawyering, being a lawyer, I realized I hated it. I did not like it. I didn't like being the only one in the room all the time, the only Black person, the only Black woman, the only racialized person. I hated it. And then on top of that, I really didn't enjoy the work. Like being a transactional lawyer is very tedious. It's for people that like love minutia. I would say I'm like much more a high level person. I like to explain things to people, which is why I feel like the YouTube works, but I didn't like that. Okay, let's argue about commas. Like that was my pet peeve. And it continues to be my pet peeve. I'm like, this is dumb. Like people are dying, Kim. Like, what are we doing? So for years, since I was the only, I built out all of like the D&I programs at the tech companies I worked at. So part of me last year was like, okay, I'm going to like be a real Yardi. I'm Jamaican and have 3 jobs. And one of those was to do D&I consulting to see if I really liked it. And while I was doing that and then like working full time and doing YouTube, I kind of started making my plan to exit my legal career. So I finally exited and started my new job as a DI program manager for this global tech company this January. So
I love that. I mean, I think that that's great how you had a plan. So everyone, all the concerned people out there, should have a plan in place to move and transition out of that. And so, I mean, I think it's very real that you are the one and only Black person in the room. I think that is a lot of our experiences when we're at work, a lot of our experiences, especially in the like law field. I feel like there's so high-powered white men that are just like, especially in the entertainment space, like
when everything's Jewish too. So
how do you feel about religion, that dynamic when you were like in the room, like when you were like, all right, well, I'm in the room and at the table, but at the same time, I'm like, what's happening here? Like, well, how did
I never liked it. I didn't like it from the beginning. It was very much like, oh, so-and-so said this. And then if the question had to do with like anything somewhat tangentially related to Black people, Stephanie, what do you think about that? And I'm like, there are so many different types of Black people. Like, this doesn't make any good sense. It was very ostracizing. Also, like, entertainment is full of a lot of like microaggressions and full on just like macroaggressions. Particularly like as a Black woman, entertainment is a very lonely life unless you work at Viacom. People that work at Viacom love Viacom. Every attorney I ever known that has worked at Viacom, they never leave because they love it so much.
Well,
outside of that, I would
for you. I knew an attorney at Viacom.
Oh, okay. So there's one. I was like, I've known about 5.
Wait,
I've known 5, and they like love it. When it's always like interesting to me because outside of that, every single other entertainment company, like I hate this. But also a lot of people that end up being lawyers, I don't think actually would have chosen that for themselves. Like I wouldn't have chosen it for myself, to be honest, had I like not been like gently pushed into it by family. And the whole purpose of like that video was to tell people like, your family means well, but if you are like, before you've made the decision to go to law school, you should do it if you want to do it. Like, especially I always recommend people should work for a year, like as a contract manager or paralegal, see if you like legal work. If I had done that, I would have realized, oh, I don't like legal work. Like this is so dry.
It makes so much sense because I was just going to say, like, a lot of folks who go to law school go directly after undergrad. So
that's what I did. Huge mistake.
You kind of just jump straight in. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of very young lawyers out there and then they get allured and trapped in a sense because of the paycheck, because of the thing, and because knowing like, well, I already did all this schooling, I already did all this time. Like, why would I change now? So it's very commendable that you're like, all those things are on the docket, but that doesn't mean my life is over.
It's interesting because I'm like, how did you even get through law school? I feel like for me personally, I would have been like, all right, year 1, 6 months in, 2 months in, like, child, get me out of here immediately. Like, this is not for me.
So law school, I did like pretty well in law school, which I think is like how it tricks you. Like people that do well in law school, I find like doesn't necessarily mean like you're going to love being a lawyer because it's like 2 different things. Like some people, like I always tell people my fear in life was to be like Lynn and Girlfriends, like because Lynn loves school so much. I love school, but I was like, oh, I can't rack up all this debt, like being in school forever, because Lynn never got a job until the end. It was like the wake up call of like, oh, what does day-to-day work look like? Like, oh, this is not, this is not for me. Like, we're going to sit here and literally like negotiate contracts all day, every day. Like, it didn't sit well. I found out of all of my friends, I only know 2 happy lawyers. So that was just telling something. And I know a lot of lawyers having gone to law school. And the people that are the 2 happy lawyers is because they took breaks between college and law school. So they knew like, this is what being a lawyer looks like. I've tried all these things. They knew what they were doing versus majority of people that go straight out of college. is maybe 80% chance somebody just told you you'd be good at this. And you're like, okay, yeah, I guess. And then you hate it. The legal field is also full of miserable people.
Yeah.
Type
yeah,
A.
they drink a lot. They're really serious. Yes, they drink a lot. Yep, that's what I heard.
Yeah, high alcoholism rates, high drug addiction rates. They're trying to cope. And then to your point, Akila, a lot of people get golden handcuffs, which to even get golden handcuffs is somewhat of a blessing because most lawyers make a lot less than people perceive that they make. Like when I graduated, I only made 30K. Like having passed the bar the first time, having graduated from a good law school, and I was like, oh, this is not going to pay Sally Mae. This is not going to work.
It's not going to pay me.
Right.
I was broke. I was like living with my grandma. I was like, can I live with you? Because I can't afford New York rent with this, because this is not any money. So,
oh my goodness. Well,
there's a lot of smoke and mirrors.
For sure. And I think we appreciate it, but I'm sure the world appreciates you just sharing your story too when it comes to,
because you definitely think you making bank as soon as you immediately. Yeah.
So only if you work at like the big law firms, and those firms notoriously only hire from like the top 14 law schools, T14, which most people don't go to. Those firms are also notoriously very racist. The legal field is very racist. So the few Black people they want to hire all look like they came from the cover of Vogue. If you put them all next to each other, they're in the running club, they're doing all these things, they have no life, they work 16 hours a day. It's a little bit wild. It's a little bit wild.
I'm glad you found your freedom, girl.
Me, I was gonna say, I'm happy to free myself.
Oh my God, it's so funny. I feel like the rest of this is going to be just kind of like PTSD in a sense, but we do want to get into some of like, entertainment law too, for folks who are creatives, for folks who are just, wanting to be in this field as a whole and just thinking like, is it time that I lawyer up or not? And if I do, like some of the things that I should even know about. And so the first thing I would love for you to just try to explain is the difference between an entertainment lawyer and, let's say, perhaps a manager or an agent.
Yeah. And I think it's important because a lot of, when I first did that kind of video, that was a lot of the questions people had of like, oh, when do I need help? Like, when do I need these things? And I would say this is like after you've realized like, oh, I have some money coming in, like, okay, I can afford these things. There's a video I did, I think it's like on Karen Civil, and there's a Karen Civil and Jesse Wu lawsuit. And then I think it's maybe in the second part.
That's the one.
That video people usually like. And then there's, I think maybe it's in the second video, is about Joyner Lucas, because he tweeted out his contract that he had with Karen Civil, which is one of the worst contracts I've ever seen because it lacks a lot of actual contract language. So I always tell people like, yes, having an entertainment lawyer is good because then you can have someone reputable to look at things, but also like as a person who's not a lawyer, you should also be able to understand like, okay, like these are the business points that affect me. You can negotiate yourself. So I highly recommend that. So the manager is more so like your day-to-day, like the manager books things for people. Some managers actually negotiate, but they make sure. A lot of the managers, when I used to work in entertainment, they definitely make sure, like, if you're an artist, that your butt is on the stage. Like, hey, come on, girl, like, we have things to do. What are you doing? Your agents are salespeople. They sell people skills to varying levels, because they are also unscrupulous sometimes. But agents are supposed to broker deals. Like, that's their goal. All they are supposed to do is broker deals. There's overlap depending on what industry you're in entertainment. Like music, for example, there's overlap sometimes between the music agents, the booking agents, and then separately like the manager, who's the day-to-day. And then in sports, I would say that overlap is much less. Like a sports agent really just brokers the deals. Like, okay, you're going to play with Tennessee Titans. Okay, let's see how many millions of dollars we're going to get. Whereas as a football player, like, do you need a manager? Probably not. Like, unless you are like booking clubs because that's what you want to do, like, great, but like probably don't need those things. And then the lawyer actually goes in and works hand in hand with both the manager and the agent to get into the nitty gritty of the contract. So the way I used to come in was saying like, okay, the agent would negotiate the business point and the lawyer will negotiate the legal point. So like, what is like our termination right? Like, what if my client wants to get out of this? I want to make sure that they have like good termination rights so you can get out of this. Are there liquidated damages clauses? What happens if like we decide we're not going to do this? How much do we have to pay you to get out of this contract? Things like that. So I would say most people don't need all three. A lot of people don't need a manager and can do that themselves, but it is a lot of work. It's a lot of admin work. So, but some managers also take up the space of an agent. So sometimes people don't need agents. So like, it kind of depends on like what industry you're in and like how far you plan to go with certain things.
How much of that percentage you're trying to sift out to this person, that person, and that person. So
lawyers' fees are very high. A good lawyer usually will charge like either a flat fee to like make it a little bit fair, but certain lawyers, like they do work off percentages, and percentages is where you start racking up a lot of money that you owe.
Wow. That's, I mean, so even going back to like the creative part, I mean, Stephanie, you say you hate this field, but girl, you are one darn good lawyer. I would definitely suggest you to read over any contracts we ever develop in the future. But so as a creative, someone who is like branding their own business, or have their own like music business or music record label or podcast, when is like a good time to like trademark your name, if that's even, is it necessary?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So basically, I always start with like one step back, because people get confused between like trademark and copyright. So trademark automatically associated with the brand. So like think McDonald's, trademark the golden arches, trademark the word McDonald's, trademark, what was that man? Ronald McDonald. Back in the day, they have a trademark on him. So anything you associate with a brand, you can trademark. And a copyright would be like, for example, for the Black Creatives Club, like you could get a copyright of the logo that you guys have. So like that's in the actual like artistic work. So they're technically like two separate things, to just let people know, because sometimes people want to like copyright something that actually should be trademarked, or vice versa. In terms of, so say like we were using your podcast as an example, the Black Creatives Club, trademarks are only as good as your ability to enforce them, which basically means, so what happens if you see like two other creators, they're like, you know, we're Black too, we're creative, we want to have our own Black Creators Club, and we're going to do a podcast. Are you going to go sue them? The answer probably like, maybe you will. Maybe you're like, you know what? I have a savings fund. Let's go. Like I have a filing fee. I'll file it against you. Okay, great. If that's the case, then 100% go ahead and trademark it, because what happens is your trademark is automatic the minute you start using it. So like WineNChill. The minute I created WineNChill, I put it on Instagram, I put it on YouTube. It's on TikTok, even though I keep procrastinating going on the TikTok. It's fine. If I were to sue somebody using WineNChill, the judge would then look back and say like, okay, when was the first time you used it in commerce? So like, when was the first time I went out and I said, WineNChill is mine. This is that. Like, I know this is like maybe a catchy phrase, but it's mine. It's mine. And it's been mine for years. And that's the end of that. That's where a trademark helps, because it's a definitive timestamp, but it's not an end all be all. So a lot of people, sometimes they'll say like, well, I don't know. It's like my hobby. Maybe I'm not going to trademark it yet. It technically starts the minute you associate it in business. But having an actual trademark, you actually filed it with the USPTO, United States Patent and Trademark Office. When you file with them is your legal timestamp. It makes it a little bit easier for a judge to say like, okay, you did this on this day. This is when the trademark is. But if you don't have one, it's not the end of the world. There are a lot of, I won't call them unscrupulous, but semi-unscrupulous lawyers that like will prey on like new creatives. And they're like, the minute you have the idea, you need to trademark it. And I'm like, not really. Like, it's expensive. You should do it eventually. If you don't do it the minute you have the idea, like, it's fine. Nobody will die.
I think that's the biggest thing that you're mentioning too, is the idea of enforcement, because you can have all the little things in the world, you know, all the business things together, the lawyer stuff together, but at the same time, if you're not diligent on checking things out, and if something comes to the forefront, do you have the fees to really be able to go after this? Like, does it even make sense at the stage that you're in? So I think that's great that you're even bringing that up too, and that folks still have that option of showcasing that without an official trademark. You can still at least have some leverage to say, hey, but I had Instagram for 5 years now under this name. And here's the day that I posted something. Boom. Yes. So that's amazing. Yeah. So you're super good.
Exactly. And I think in terms of enforcement, even if like you're thinking like, okay, I'm saving up my money to do what is it, like $250 now? I can't remember, to file the trademark. Can't save my money. I noticed somebody made this little Instagram. They're trying, send them a DM, be like, hey, I've noticed you've done this. I would just like to let you know I'm using, this is mine. I've already filed the trademark. So then, you know, something happens, you already put them on notice. You're like, here it is. I sent them an email. I put it on letterhead. It's done. Like I already told them, because what judges and courts will look at is, okay, did you actively try to enforce this? Or did you just say like, oh, you know what, I can't be bothered right now? Because when you don't actively try to enforce things, is when something just becomes a commonplace term. So like a lot of people don't know this, but escalator used to be a company. Like it used to be called a moving staircase, and escalator was the brand that made that specific moving staircase, and they never protected their trademark. So people made a whole bunch of knockoffs brands because you can't tell the difference of them, and they lost that. So now everyone's like, oh yeah, an escalator is just, that's what it is. No one says moving staircase. So that's kind of how you want to look at your brand. Like if it's something like a commonplace term, you want to make sure you have it all over social, that you have everything. Having a website is a really good. Website can be kind of expensive, but that also helps. And then filing the trademark and keeping it up to date.
Speaking of enforcement too, like I just want to get your take on something. We've spoken to, let's say, dancers in the past who really spoke about the idea of like, you know, TikTok challenges or dance moves or things that they've been doing throughout the years. You probably know one instance, let's say the Savage Dance, for instance, created by Black people, Black creators, and yet being kind of, you know, they never got the credit. They've you know, been definitely been mass produced by other creators that then are able to monetize off of that fame in some regard. I'm curious if they had an entertainment lawyer, or at least an entertainment lawyer friend, what would be some of the things that some of these creators who are just creating in hopes of making it on the gram or on TikTok or on whatever, can they do to kind of protect themselves and the work that they're putting out in the world?
Yeah. So with TikTok and social media in general, it's such an interesting thing because the idea is you want other people to do it, but you want them to credit you, which a lot of colonizing creatives don't do. They just steal things and then they go about their business. So my suggestion would be from a recovering lawyer, so not legal advice, if you're going to do things to somehow like watermark your work. A lot of artists will do this, that like do like, it's easier for illustrators where they'll watermark their work that they put on TikTok or on Instagram. There are whole like comic books on Instagram. I would say for the choreographers is a bit harder because you want it to catch on, which I think is like the issue that they're running into. One thing that is interesting, because a choreography is a work of art in a fixed setting, technically. So you have a copyright. Copyright is inherent. You don't have to file a copyright for anything. If I write a poem, I don't have to go file it with anybody. I have a copyright in the poem. It's the same thing with choreography. So if they see other people doing their work, they can, and they see those people like getting sponsorships off of their choreography, they can reach out to the sponsor and literally say like, oh, that's my choreography. I love that you use that. However, I have a licensing fee and this is that. At the very least, it will get your name in front of the sponsor. The sponsor is probably not going to pay you because they're like, well, I already paid so-and-so. But there's a lot of power in like shaming brands. And there's a lot of power. And like, you see it like tangentially, like when people like, they lose their luggage, or something happens like at an airline and they tag the airline and then people start spamming the airline. I think if artists on social media acted the same way towards brands that are basically stealing their work by using it with another creator that stole their work, I think it could impact the same type of change, because brands operate on this idea of like, oh, I want to make sure I'm paying creators these days. They don't want to get dragged on the internet, etc. So if people just start to drag them, there's nothing really to lose.
There's nothing to, but I think that's such a great idea.
I can't.
Oh, I'm very big. Like, I'm very big on public shaming.
And it is what it is.
Listen, the guillotine and monitoring that, like, you're next.
Right. Literally. No, she takes no mercy.
My subscribers know, because sometimes trolls will pop up and I'm like, oh, you want to do this today? We can do this. It's fine.
Fight with the lawyer? Like,
I have all the time.
That's hilarious.
I think it's great too, because I feel like in a lot of the conversation that's been happening around, and I'll focus on the choreographers, but what you're saying can apply to you know, motivational speakers, like whoever, whatever you do online. But a lot of the shame or a lot of the targeting has been towards those creators that they think copied their work, or not even think, that did copy their work, versus let's jump a step further and go to
let's go to where you got paid, because that's my money.
And that's where the money is. And that's what you ultimately want yourself. So, you know, not to say that these creators are scotch-free, should get off scotch-free for doing that, but it's like, that is such a good approach.
It is.
Go to the top, go to the dollar.
Because the other creator is going to ignore you. They're just like, well, they're not going to give you their check. They're like, oh, but the brand is more so, the brand is probably run by a 23-year-old that just graduated college, and they don't want to feel like, oh crap, like I messed up a social media thing because I didn't know that this was the actual person that made the dance. They're more likely to fix it quickly.
Okay, so with creators and sponsorship deals and working with brands, there's obviously contracts that are involved. And so what is the most, like the trickiest trick of the book when it comes to sneaking little things into contracts that creators are not necessarily paying attention to, or even like music artists? I feel like that's like a really big one and popular, like people are like Unsung and I got a bad deal and da-da-da-da-da. So
yes.
It's the perpetuity clauses. So one of my YouTube friends, I usually like, I don't ever, these days I'm like, contract, I'm allergic. But every once in a while, like if it's my friend, like I'll look at it. Sent me and they're like, is this normal? And it's the perpetuity clauses. So basically what brands will do, and they do this to artists, is the same thing. And a brand will say like, Stephanie, I love that you wear NCAR print. Send me some pictures. I'm going to put it on my website and, you know, it's going to be great. And I'm going to give you $500 for this one post. I'm like, okay, $500. I don't have that many Instagram followers. Like, sure, $500 sounds great, lovely. And they'll put in the clause, in perpetuity, this picture will live on my Instagram. And actually, I own this picture now in perpetuity. Next thing you know, you didn't talk about their website. You've never seen it, never heard of it. Next thing you know, your face is on their website. Your face and you in the NCAR top is the spokesperson for their website. Like, oh, I didn't agree to this. And then they tell you, oh no, I have a perpetuity clause. Perpetuity clause says I own that photo in perpetuity to do with whatever I want. And now I want to put it on the website. And it's like, well, you didn't pay me for that. It's like, oh, well, you should have, as the creator, as the artist, as the influencer, you should have looked at the clause and saw that, and you didn't, and oh well. And a lot of creators have gotten caught up in that. Usually people that like will have like one viral like piece of content, so they're just glad, like, oh, this is great, like, and maybe the numbers are larger. Maybe a brand gave them 20 grand, so they think like, oh, that's a lot of money, that's great, until the brand makes you the de facto spokesperson and you didn't get compensated, and then it becomes an issue. So I would say you can just Control F perpetuity on your contract. If you can't afford a lawyer, that's totally fine. And if you see it, you tell them like, hey, okay, I work off of a licensing arrangement, which means I'll license it to you for a couple months. If you want to do perpetuity, which is forever, I'm gonna need some forever money because it's not gonna work for me.
Period. She knows. Listen,
Akila, when I tell you we did this thing and she was like all up. This girl with the contract, child, she don't sign nothing at all. I'm like, girl, just sign it. It's fine. She's like, no, did you see this? And what about that? And what does this mean? And what does this say? I'm like, you know, that's it. She is on it. She is on it. So I have faith that we're not going to be signing anything over to anybody with her on the team because she don't play.
But what you're saying, that's the vibe that I'm on. And I don't know if it's the Jamaican thing or what, but I'm like, you can't just get
forever.
Forever. That's
forever. I was like, hold on. I'm gonna need some cash then, because I too have forever student loans. So I would like to see some compensation then.
I think that totally makes sense too, because I feel like a lot of people, when you are signing contracts, and a lot of them are $20K, multi-million-dollar deals, like you're not really thinking about that, nor did you even think to
it ask. Would even get that.
Like you didn't even probably think to ask, or you're not consulting with the lawyer before you're signing something to make sure that everything is copacetic. So I think that that's like a really great tip, because there are a lot of influencers, mini influencers, or what are they called? Micro influencers.
Yeah.
We're just happy to finally get in the game on that level. And that's how they get you. I would say too, because I want to, this story just comes to me every so often. I was sitting in a conference before, and the guy, the man who created Fast and Furious, it was based off an article.
I didn't know that.
Yes, it was based off an article. So that could be a good next video for you. But it's just based off an article. And what he did, Universal saw this article, printed a magazine and everything, and like called him up and wanted rights to that you know, I guess pretty much in perpetuity, kind of what you were saying, the rights, the like storyline and the storyline, all that stuff. Gave him, I think it was 20 grand. It was something along those lines.
That ain't no money, girl.
But now it's no money thinking about how, you see how many Fast and Furious, like this, we're probably on the 13th, 15th Fast and Furious. I was interning at Universal. We were talking about Fast and Furious 10 and I was like, oh my God. And I thought back again to that man, like, every time I think about him, every now and then.
That poor man.
Black man too. And
and a black man too,
yes,
girl. That they be tricking us.
And he thought he ran off with it. He was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was like, that's a lot of money for like one article you wrote. But like what people don't see is like there is so much power in derivative works. Like that's what it's called in copyright. So like say we have this podcast, anything after this that we create off of like this one episode is a derivative work. There's so much money in derivative works. And once you sign away, oh, like the original is owned by somebody else, well, all the derivative works are theirs.
That's it.
Honestly, while we talking about this, did we send over the terms and conditions of the podcast before we started this? Hold on, wait a second.
You did. I saw it.
You saw it on record. You saw it, Stephanie? Yes.
I saw it.
We can't be trying to mess with the lawyer now. That's one thing we're not gonna do. That's what we're not gonna do.
I love it. What are some other things? I mean, we touch on a lot of topics. Yeah. I want to make sure like some of the major questions that you think you have gotten when you were fully practicing or came across a lot of contracts within entertainment law, or just from the YouTube series that you have out now, like major questions that creatives, that folks in general who want to, you know more about that side of the business. What are some things?
I think as a creative, the best thing you can do for yourself is understand a basic contract. And I would say a good starting place, I'm pretty sure it's the second video, but it says like Karen Civil and Tom, his name is not Tom Joyner Lucas. The Joyner threw me off. And Joyner Lucas, his contract, because like I go through it like line by line, like this is the problem, this is the problem, this doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense. I would start there, specifically being one thing like as a creative you can control is the deliverables. So like say you are an artist, you are an illustrator and you draw beautiful cartoons and someone is hiring you. Like, okay, what's the deliverable? Like, then they say they give you a contract that says, okay, you're going to make a cartoon for me and it's due on March 3rd and that's it. So those deliverables like are very vague, like cartoon of what? A cartoon of Stephanie, a cartoon of Mickey Mouse, like a cartoon of who? You could turn something in 100 times and they keep telling you, nope, that's not what I want. Nope, that's not what I want. Nope, that's not what I want, because it's so vague. So you want something that says like in that example, a good contract deliverables would say, okay, we are commissioning you for a cartoon of a mouse. That's not Mickey Mouse, because we don't want trademark issues with Disney. We ain't got no money. Up to 3 revisions. So like you as the illustrator, you don't have to keep changing. They can't request unlimited amounts of changes. So revisions are super important. If you have sponsors, same thing with my sponsors. I don't allow them to do revisions. So that's that. I know some creatives, they're like, oh, I feel bad. And I'm like, for what? I edited the video one time and that's that. But what up to you, always put in a certain amount of revisions in there, the date that it's due, and then termination rights. Like, okay, say that you have this super difficult client and you're like, okay, we agreed on 3 revisions. We're going on 5 because you keep giving them rope. What's the termination options in there? Like, you know what? These mofos are annoying me. I've already done half the work. I want at least half of my check, etc. You can ask for, I know a lot of like creatives, specifically like in the social media space, will accept any type of payment terms, which I highly recommend you don't. They'll accept net 90, which means you'll get paid in 90 days. That's silliness. I structure mine to the day you sign the contract, you in 10 days of signing the contract are going to pay me half. And the day I upload the video with your sponsorship, you will pay me my other half within another 10 days.
You don't do net 30, because net 30 is very common too.
Yeah, net 30 is common. I don't like net 30. I don't want to wait 30 days for my money. I'm on 10-day schedule, run me my check. Sometimes, a sponsor might be like, no, of course not. So then you can like work with them, but I would say at least do half on signing, because you never want to be chasing someone down for money that they owe you. It is the most annoying thing, particularly if you have bills to pay.
Yep.
Especially if you have bills to pay.
That's it. You don't want to chase down a person because you see how fast a person can run away from that. So a whole corporation,
right? They just dip. You just never hear from them again.
Email change, your email is blocked.
I've seen a lot of creatives like go on social media to like shame like a sponsor for not paying them in 6 months. And I'm like, before you get there where your blood pressure is so raised, get at least half the money up front from them. That's be like, oh yeah, I filmed the video, but I'm not uploading it. Like, rub me my half of my money first. And you can put all of that like in your payment terms.
So it's all clear. And so that's the thing. I think that's the biggest thing.
It's like, to be real clear. Real clear.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, because at the end of the day, it's like, we want to avoid problems.
Exactly. and the great thing is that you learn, like you live and learn, right? Mm-hmm. Like we've lived and learned. Yes. Like we've got some things and we were like, oh, sorry, we didn't realize that was going to be a problem, and it was a problem. So now it's like, oh, now we got terms and conditions, so that you know what's going on and what's happening, because like we kind of got caught up a little bit, and we were like, okay, crap, nope, we gotta switch it up. So
switch it up.
You know, it's definitely good to have everything really clear, really specified. Like, I thank God I have a lawyer friend. Girl, my God, sister.
Everything.
I'm gonna call her up. Hey, girl.
Shout out to Kristen. We'll shout her out.
Right.
You know what else is really clear?
What's really clear?
You know what else is really clear? This show, okay? The best way that you can support us is to share this show with a friend and to subscribe to our YouTube page, our Apple and Spotify podcast page. Everything is at the Black Creators Club. So when you do, please rate, please leave a review on the podcast page or comment on our show. It goes a long, long way. Stephanie would know this as a fellow YouTuber. So we'll read fan shout outs on air. And also, if you have any questions or suggestions for future topics, future things that you want to know, contact us at the Black Creators Club at gmail.com.
Yes. And so before we go into the game,
yes,
I want to just kind of go back into, let's go to the YouTube of it all. I feel like this is like your new space. Like, yes, you're working in tech, but the YouTube is really all the way on 100. You are really killing it. So like, tell us about the YouTube. And I mean, we talked about it a little bit. You do the pop culture lawsuits and whatnot, which I think is super cool because people don't know what's going on, and you break it down real easy, real simple. But tell us a little bit more about like YouTube. Are you loving it? Are you hating it?
Yeah.
Oh, all the things.
YouTube is such an interesting space, and I always tell people, like my subscribers know, my spirit is a strong 65. So me trying to figure out YouTube was like such an interesting thing on a personal learning level. I started YouTube years ago, unsuccessfully. I did one video with my best friend after I had a friend tell me I hated being a lawyer, which was funny. And she was like, you hate being a lawyer? You would be a really good producer. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, what does that mean? I feel like that's just a word that people throw around. I don't know what it means. And so the more I thought about it, I was like, oh, like YouTube is a mini production. Like you guys are on a set, like you have all these things, like it takes setup, like you have to look nice, like all these things. And I was like, oh, okay, let's try this. So my best friend and I did a video about having natural hair in corporate, and it was like 3 minutes long. So we wrote out a script. We like found a friend's place to shoot it at. We got like a mic, all this stuff. It took us months to edit this 3-minute video. Hilarious. So sad. Editing skills non-existent. I was like, how does this work? Like iMovie, confusion. At the end, it was like this cute little 3-minute video. And I was like, oh, this is great. And she was like, I hate editing. And I was like, I hate editing. She's like, okay, we can't do this then. Cause like, who's going to edit the video? And I was like, damn, nobody. YouTube sat there, one video on it sat there. 2 years later, I was like, oh, my boyfriend was like, Stephanie, just do a video by yourself. My best friend was like, just do it by yourself. And I was like, fine. So there's a second video on there. Lighting is awful. Like the setting is awful. It's funny. It's about like avoiding your nosy coworkers at work. And I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Let it sit there again. So now there's 2 videos on this YouTube that I never use. The pandemic happened and I was like, okay, you know, I need something to do. So like, let me try this silly YouTube thing again. So I started it on Jamaican Independence Day on August 4th. And then by September, I did the Kanye video, and then it took off with the Kanye video. And I was like, oh, okay, like, I guess we'll do like lawyer reacts to like pop culture lawsuits. People seem to like that. And I'll still do my student loan videos. So that's kind of where it's gone. So that was September 2020, August 2020. So now we're like a year and a half into the YouTube. So it's going pretty well. I would say I like really enjoy YouTube. It's opened up a lot of doors for me in terms of like meeting other Black creators, which has been really nice. I've had like been very like blessed to have some large channels reach out and we like do collabs on their channels where they have like 200, 300,000 subscribers. And I've gotten to 22K now. So I'm like, yeah, it's not bad. We're getting somewhere. We get my little Google AdSense check go to Sally Mae. So I'm like, okay, this is going. I would say the coolest thing that has happened so far from YouTube is YouTube they're trying to do better because tech is a very racist place and they're not kind to their Black creators. So they're trying to make an effort. And one of the things they have is like this YouTube Black program. So I went to an event they had before it was freezing outside. So maybe September, October-ish, where they had like a private brunch for, it wasn't just Black, it was like Black, Asian, and Hispanic creators in Harlem. And then we got to go to the Apollo to watch Jasmine Sullivan and Mary J. Blige. And I lost my mind. It was amazing. I had so much fun. So yeah, I highly recommend. I feel like I'm testament to like, you know what, sometimes take a couple tries for something catches on and that's all right.
And that's entrepreneurship in general. Because one thing about creative, like, you know, you're a YouTube creator, but you're also obviously an entrepreneur with this. Like, this is a entrepreneurial endeavor. Okay.
So who's editing the videos now? I need to know.
I'm editing so my boyfriend taught me how to edit, which shout out to you, Ben. He taught me how to edit. So I edit the videos.
You better. Okay.
I've learned to edit. I've learned to make a thumbnail, which is very interesting. I finally got a mic because people kept leaving me comments like, sis, this mic though. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. Shout out to Patreon. I have Patreon. I was able to buy an actual camera because I've been shooting on my iPhone this whole time. So you don't even really need all the fancy equipment. If you're thinking about it at home, you should just try it.
Try it out, trial and error.
Literally
try it. She's like,
trial and error.
Black creative stuff, trial and error for sure.
Right, like the year we've been in business, it's been bananas. Like, I just to share a quick anecdote because it's hilarious. So we were like, oh, we're gonna start this YouTube channel. We're gonna like start our podcast and this, that, and the third. And so we got all the domains and everything, and we had to film the trailer and the like first episode, like in the same night.
Oh, I know. I was like, which story?
And we were like, okay, it's fine. Mind you, it's like now 9:00, like 9 p.m. We're like, just got through the trailer. We're like doing the thing. And it's like, she's back and forth and where I'm saying something, she's saying something. And it's like this cute little thing. And we got done. Finally, we were like, after like 3 tries, right? We're like, oh, thank God. And then we were like, it is 11:00 and we still have to do the first episode. Oh, wait. Okay. We did the first episode. Okay, wait. We still have to edit. Like, it's on Zoom because we weren't in, we're not in the same place.
This was the beginning of the pandemic.
Or it was August.
Close. It was August, right.
And so it was like, now when you go to Zoom, like I don't know what you use, but I use like Adobe Premiere.
And I use Final.
So when you
use Premiere Pro.
Okay, yeah. So when you put the Zoom meeting in there, there's all this black space around your videos. You have to cut that out. I had no idea how to do that. Like, I do have a journalism degree and I do have some editing experience, but that I had no idea. So I am like literally on YouTube, like, how do you get rid of black?
And then we wanted to have a background.
We needed a background. She had to make the background. We were up till 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, like just trying to figure out how to edit this video because we already said that we were going to post it this day. So we were like,
oh, you made the date.
Made the date. And even though it's not like our fault, I mean, we just started. So it's not like there were a ton of people. We were like, no, the people are depending on
it. Was just like we said something and we just wanted to do it, you know? And it was just like the 5 a.m., 6 a.m. We were so tired the first like month of like just starting the podcast. We just were like, what are we doing?
So shout to you for doing it solo too, because like this is granted, like our two heads sometimes are like we're literally one brain. So I don't know how much help, but at the same time,
we do agree on a lot of things.
Shout out to y'all for figuring it out in one day. Because I swear we were just sitting there like, I don't know. All right, we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Right.
I know, right?
Love that.
That's what we should have done. Maybe we should have taken a smoke break or something. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. I know we don't have time for a full-on game, but I do have one question for you. And maybe this is coming up in a new episode of Lawyer Reacts. But let's talk about Tristan Thompson real quick.
Oh.
Yes.
That man is such a yardy's dude. I'm like,
yeah, literally. I'm like, and there was a tweet that went out that somebody said, listen, just admit you're a gallus. Like, it's fine.
listen, just admit it and just move on.
The apologies to Chloe, it's ridiculous. But what I was curious about was, and granted, we don't know the full contracts and all this stuff, but like he mentioned to his new baby mother right now about the fact that on Snapchat, like, I'm retiring from the NBA, and and I'm going to be on unemployment. So
which is really dumb. It's 30 and retiring from the NBA.
No, I mean, but you're like NBA players. You don't.
No,
they don't have this.
Kobe was in there for.
But he's Kobe. Is Tristan Kobe?
He's not. But if he worked hard as he does on these babies,
people are talking about LeBron James. Like, what is he? 37? Like, oh wow, he's really doing it.
Exactly.
So Tristan. So it's like, for the question is more so around like, does that even work? You're unemployed.
No, he's such a liar. Like, he's just like, well, I'm just gonna say it, and someone will believe me. Like, the sentence didn't ever made any sense when I read it. I was like, does he think anybody is this slow? Okay. That's not how that works. Also, that's not how NBA contracts work, because NBA contracts are guaranteed money, unlike the NFL. Like, NFL players are not guaranteed their check, which is why, no shade to Derrick Rose, but which is why Derrick Rose has gotten all this money and doesn't always play, because the man is made of glass. But no shade to that man. I'm glad he's doing better. But this is why, if the NFL players that don't play, like, they don't see a cent. Like, the minute you're on the bench, like, you're not getting any cash. That's not how that works. Tristan Thompson has money. He's just cheap. He doesn't spend it on condoms, clearly, and he doesn't spend it on writing sensible things. There's money there. That's not how that works. And I don't know where he came up with this random $75,000 from. Like, it was very strange. I don't know what he Googled and was like, this makes sense.
Right, like, that's gonna take care of your whole 18 years of this baby. Like, come on, 75,000. She knew what it was. That's why she didn't even. She said, "I'm just screenshot this," and
she was like, "No,
sir." Like, what?
She knew. That's not how it works. Also, being unemployed wouldn't waive your, like, you can't say, I'm unemployed, I waive my responsibility to pay child support. Like, it doesn't work like that.
You will be under the jail.
You will get arrested for not paying child support.
That's it.
That is hilarious. I also love, so the few things that you did talk about that were also like up and, was the Free Britney and then the Astro World. So I'm so happy that Britney is finally.
Me too. That was awful. I started covering that like before it like got big in like, I think October of 2020 was the first video I did, because somebody had sent me an article and I was like, wait, what is this? From like Free Britney movement, because I guess like they saw my channel or something, and so I thought it was like really interesting, so I had like covered that, because most people, I didn't know what conservatorship was before they came out like with her story and were like more public with it. It's completely disgusting. I think we'll see, hopefully next is like criminal charges against her dad, because I'm like, this is crazy.
I know. And I feel like she's definitely on that pathway, and so that's a case that I know I will have my eyes glued to the screen for. It's going to be incredible. But Stephanie, this has been amazing. What else do you, let's say, want our viewers to know about you? What's on the horizon? And then also, if you can just share your social media so folks can keep up with you.
Yeah. So thank you both for having me. I really appreciate it. So my social is WineNChill. So very easy. On Instagram, I'm getting better about the Instagram. TikTok, I'm gonna do it. And YouTube, we're definitely on the YouTube. And then Patreon, if you'd like to go on Patreon. Patreon is solely my Colonizer Exposed history series. So more so if you're into history, we have a whole history channel over there. And then on YouTube, I think Lawyer Reacts will still continue. So I'm going to do Lawyer Reacts throwbacks that people have asked for. So I did it like a couple of weeks ago. We did the Fire Festival, those lawsuits, which was interesting. And then we're going to do the Matrix on Monday. So I have to film that hopefully tomorrow. And so the Matrix lawsuit, which is, I think, a very interesting lawsuit because allegedly the original version of that was written by a Black woman, and she partially won in court her lawsuit against the Wachowski siblings. So that will be very interesting. Yeah, so I think that'll be cool, like, to talk about, since they just had a part 4 of the Matrix come out. So we're going to do that. And then I think on the channel, we're going to start doing some more like general commentary. So that should be interesting. A little bit of a side new venture.
So let's just talk real quick about the timing. Like, how do you find the time within
like 9 to 5
and a true 9 to 5? And like, let's just talk. How do you do that before we really?
It's interesting. I don't have it like with me here, but I have like this huge like planner that looks like a Bible like over there, which I don't always use. I buy one every year and then I'm like, I'm gonna use it and be productive. And then I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna run out of chicken with no head on. The thing that has helped me the most, to be honest, is setting in my mind, like for YouTube when I first started, was like, okay, 2 videos have to come out a week. Doesn't matter when I do them, when I post them, but as long as it's twice a week, then we're going to get there. I tried 3 times a week. That lasted for like 3 weeks and that was an awful idea. I couldn't like keep up with it. And then I do lives on my YouTube, if you guys would like to come, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So that gives me a sense of like, okay, well, it's at the same time every week. I have to like pick a topic. And a huge shout out to my subscribers. They send me topics, like they'll DM me on Instagram, they'll send them or they'll comment them on YouTube. So usually whatever the most people want to see is what we cover. So that helps in terms of not having to source things anymore. And then I do all the research. I also like am a really obnoxious early morning person. So I think that helps. It's easier to do a lot of things if you're a morning person because most people are asleep in the morning.
Yeah.
So I try to do
your phone's not going off. You're not having a ton of emails flying in. It's like I'm not a morning person. I'm trying to get there.
Exactly.
I do know that I'm more productive in the morning, but it is just hard to get out of the bed. The bed just be so comfortable.
I know.
I feel you.
Amazing.
If you throw yourself off the bed, it helps. I told my best friend that, and I was like, listen, it's helpful because you're not going to hit the ground. You're like, oh, I can't like actually smack my face. So like, you wake up.
If not, your rug is very comfortable, so make it work. This has been amazing, like we said. So thank you, Stephanie, so much for joining us and for sharing a little bit more with our listeners about the amazing work that you do. You can find me chatting about media and life motivation, all with a dash of style, at Akila Friends.
Yes, and you guys can find me on Instagram at EbonyChapman12, talking everything Black-owned business and, of course, the Black Creators Club. This has been amazing. Stephanie, we're so happy to have you on the podcast. Like, such a huge fan. We're both fans. So, like,
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Sure.
We are subscribed, by the way. So
yay! Don't forget to subscribe. Sometimes people will watch and then they'll say, oh my God, I've been watching for 3 months. I forgot to subscribe. So don't forget to subscribe. It's free. And it helps me get more coins out of these businesses.
There we go.
Support Black business, period.
Support a Black business and press the red button.
Yeah, so follow the Black Creators Club at the Black Creators Club on all platforms. And again, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. And remember to always abide by your ABCs.
Always be creating.